You're listening to Chuck Talks. Two guys, two subjects with no script, little editing, and zero filter. Let's get to it.
What's up, America? Jeb 5000.
Yo, yo.
And Chuck.
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 Hey, Chuck.
We got a Chuck Talk without a Chuck.
It's getting to be a habit, Steven,
I know. I feel like we have to call the show Chuck Talk,
when he's here.
and we have to call it Chuck Talk Sans Chuck.
Oh, we do. That is what we call
Chuck
it.
Talk Sans Chuck.
Yeah.
So we are without Chuck tonight, and typical. Chuck's got some challenges.
Yep.
He's got a very busy life.
Yeah,
and,
we all have our personal life.
Yeah. There's no problem. But you know what? I think it's our 8th Thursday in a row, 7th Thursday in a row.
We've been doing good. It's been a while. We've been going strong for a while now.
Consistency builds excellence.
Yep.
And I know a lot of you probably out there think that the show is not excellent, and it probably is not yet.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? Go figure.
Huh.
So we're just going to be consistent, you and I, and we're going to go from 10 listens to 20 listens.
All right.
And then we might go from 20 to 40.
Hey.
You never know.
Sure.
But what did you want to chat about tonight? Is there something you wanted to get me ranting and raving on?
Well, we can figure as we go along, but I do have producer notes.
Okay, producer notes. All right, let's go.
Hold on. I have my phone. Okay. So first off, producer note, we're gonna start calling these Called It because Steverdamus. So
Saw the future and called it
correctly. I read an NPR article about schools opening back up in the fall. The AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, are...
What's a pediatrician, by the way? Explain.
Like a kid's doctor, right?
Kid doctor, yeah.
Yeah, doctor for kids.
Yep.
Anyway, the AAP has recommended that we go back to school in the fall.
Why should we go back to school?
Because, and this is where the called it comes in, because the cons...
isolation.
The cons of isolation outweigh the pros of not spreading the disease. Kids are going to be more mentally unhealthy than physically healthy.
Okay, so let's review. So back in March, when the virus, the pandemic, bunny ears, came into the United States, and the media ran with it, the media forced society to clamor for a solution.
Yeah. And
the solution was the concept of isolation. And the isolation obviously was, closing the economy. Quarantine was a word that a lot of people learned that they probably maybe remembered from like a high school play or something. But one of the big ones was obviously shutting down public schools. How many kids go to public school in the United States? That'd be a good fact to make sure we get correct.
Yeah. In the United States.
And so, as in true Steverdamus fashion, when all of society is jumping on one side of the balance, I start jumping on the other side. And I'm like, guys, this is probably not a good idea. There's a lot of issues that we haven't thought through. There's a lot of unintended consequences. Maybe we can't even control the virus. And we can slow the spread. Close down schools. And I remember when I told my son...
50.8 million.
Okay, let's just call it 50 million kids go to public school.
50.8 million.
Okay, so on one side of the scale is 50 million children's education and mental health, and on the other side of the scale is what happens if we let the virus go. And I understand there's mental health on both sides, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I was saying, hey guys, if you look at the data coming out of Asia, if you look at the data coming out of Europe, it basically says this attacks, people with multiple comorbidities, and the main one being age. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously not attacking children. Like there was no data in the time in March. There's no data now that says this is dangerous for children.
Exactly.
Quite the opposite.
Yep.
This is actually good for children as a whole, for the simple reason that their immune system and their immune response learns how to fight a a corona-style virus, and learns how to fight multiple styles of viruses through the memory, and so that when COVID-20 or COVID-30 comes, they're prepared for it. So you're actually doing harm to people who have healthy immune systems, because you're not limiting that. You're taking away their exposure. You're washing their hands. You're not letting them go outside. You're taking away their vitamin D. You're taking away their exercise. You're taking away their socialization. And I said, guys, that's pretty dangerous. Like, we don't know what's going to happen if we do this to children. Oh, no, it's fine. It's just for a few weeks. It's for a few months, whatever. And we're going to save 10 million lives, or whatever. I think the media was saying there was 30 million people were going to die, or some fucking absurd number. And you're like, no, that's just not. There's just no data. There's just no science that says that. So anyways, I said, no, don't shut down schools. Leave them open. Quarantine the people with multiple comorbidities. Quarantine the people with pre-existing conditions, and let society go on. Well, obviously, no one listened to me, and we got into this huge quarantine quagmire, and now you have children who have been unsocialized for 4 to 5 months. And the AAP, highly revered doctors who study both physical and mental health of children are saying, this is terrible.
Yeah.
This is absolutely terrible for our children. So now we have 50.8 million, let's round down, 50 million public school kids. Keep in mind that a lot of these kids are people who don't have parents at the home who are willing to educate them, that provide them proper nutrition, provide them...
That doesn't even count private schools. It's like...
Yeah, it's only... Well, but the private school kid's fine, right?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Like his country club mom... Yeah. Oh, God. The number of people I saw on, like, my wife's social media feed that's like, stay home, it's the safe thing to do. I'm like, you have a 4,000 square foot house, 7 refrigerators, slight exaggeration, 6 months supply of food, and a bank account with 7 digits. Like, it's very easy for you to say, stay at home. Say that to a single mom of 3 in the inner city who relies on public education, not just for child care, but for education so she can work, child care so she can work, and nutrition. And oh God, it's just like, oh man, the damage that we have done for these 3 to 4 months, and the damage that we will do if we continue to shut down schools, will far outweigh adding a few years to people's lives over the age of 80. And I know I'm being callous by that statement, and I recognize that people under the age of 50 and 60 are passing away as well. But for the most part, the median age of the person in the United States that's passing away from the coronavirus is already around the age of mortality. And yes, there's some outliers. And yes, it's a dangerous virus. I've never not said it's a dangerous virus. But like by just not even thinking about children, parents would do anything for their kids. Well, you ain't gonna get the coronavirus. You're not gonna not dump a fucking $3 trillion worth of debt on your children. This whole bullshit. Like, parents would do anything for their kids. They're not. Like, guys, if you're a parent out there, shut the fuck up. Like, you won't do anything for your kid. You'll do some things for your kid, except that, and that.
Yeah.
Like, you're terrified of the flu.
And also, by the way, just like as another side, you shouldn't do anything for your kid. There should be some lines you shouldn't cross for your kid. Like, I just think that you're not going to bail them out for the 50th, or you shouldn't bail them out for the 50th time. Sometimes they got to suffer their own consequences.
Right, of course. Sometimes they have to suffer their own consequences. But, like, this notion that, like, parents would do anything for their kid, well, that was just blown up.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you're not willing to die a few years early for your children. You're not willing to fucking not throw $5 trillion on the federal deficit for your children. Like, the baby boomers, and we talked about this in the last podcast about the age of the people making decisions. They were literally like, we have a really good life. We don't want to take any risk of losing our life. Like, no risk is acceptable. Like, when you're looking at the data coming out in the 70s and 80s, if you had no pre-existing condition, it's still like sub 1% of death. Like, last night I found out that my friend's 93-year-old grandfather, who just left, 93-year-old grandfather and 88-year-old grandmother both survived the coronavirus with no symptoms and multiple pre-existing conditions. And so it's like, did the media report that, by the way? But it's just like, they're not willing to take any risk. Like, guys, when you're talking 1 in 100, it's so low risk. They're not willing to take any risk for their children when it involves fatality. And when it comes to lowering their lifestyle, basically meaning that their pension checks and their 401ks and their stock portfolios suffer, they're like, just fucking print money.
Yeah.
And our kids will pay it off. So it's just like, dude, like the people who made the decisions, that's Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, that's all of these fuckers, all of them, were literally like, let's not take any risk whatsoever. No risk. Like, lock everything down. And oh, by the way, let's keep our stock portfolios inflated, and our kids will pay for it.
Yeah.
All of you parents that agree with that shit, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, you're not taking this serious. I'm taking it very serious. I'm taking very serious about kicking 50 million kids out of a public education to save a few 100,000 people. Oh, you're so callous. It's just like you want to just sacrifice a few 100,000 people. No, I don't want to sacrifice anybody. I want people to realize that they need to make choices for themselves, and we need to make choices for our children because they're not able to make choices for themselves. And those choices we need to make is don't fucking suffocate them with debt. Don't fucking suffocate them with lack of social isolation. Don't fucking suffocate them with mental issues. Don't fucking suffocate them with poor nutrition. Don't fucking suffocate them with lack of role models. Don't fucking suffocate their development in education, their mental health, their physical health. Like, I'm not willing to sacrifice my children or the other 50 million children because it might save a few 100,000 people's lives.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, listen, and it's not a sacrifice, right? Like, these retirement communities, like, if you're in hospice care, you're in hospice care. And if you die of the coronavirus or with the coronavirus in hospice care, it's one thing or another thing. You know, you can argue, like, was that person going to survive the next 6 months anyways? Did they die in April when they could have died in June? I don't know. What's their quality of life? Like, you can get into that. But if you're going to talk about, like, assisted livings, like these retirement communities, that's the responsibility falls on the community itself to keep everyone safe. And if that means you need to isolate your community, that's fine. But I don't see why isolating 50 million children from public education is going to help keep them alive. You know, and if the family and the individual doesn't have the discipline to stay away from each other for 6 months to a year, as the 50 million children help build herd immunity and expose their immune system for future coronaviruses and protect their mental health and get educated and have nutrition, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, I just don't get, like, this is not complicated. And I've said it from the beginning, the coronavirus is dangerous. People will die. People need to take responsibility for themselves. It is contagious. If you have a pre-existing condition, if you have age, you need to self-isolate. But everyone else, go on living. Let's get to herd immunity in 6 months to 8 months, and then everyone else can come back out of their house. And that's exactly what you're seeing happening.
Yep.
I saw data coming out today from New York that New York is not only the lowest state of infection rates right now, it's like becoming non-existent. For this simple fucking, and there's like, oh, we're doing a great job self-isolating. The subways are packed. The buildings are packed. As we're doing a great job wearing masks. No, not everyone's wearing a mask in New York. It's that in high dense areas of New York, you're looking at 30, 40, 50, 60% of the population already exposed to the coronavirus, already with antibodies. They're no longer carriers.
Yeah.
They are proving herd immunity works in high dense population. Now, in the lower areas, outside the cities, et cetera, the virus may not get there. It may get there. But in high dense areas, they're proving that herd immunity works. Like, everyone's like, oh, New York is doing a great job. Cuomo, shut the fuck up. You're not doing a great job at self-isolating when 50% of the Bronx has the antibody.
Yeah.
You didn't do a good job.
I think too, like, it's not like it's a bad thing. She didn't do a good job. Like, this is
exactly
new. Yeah.
It just, that's what I was saying to people. It's like, guys, from the very beginning, wear a mask in public places. If you have pre-existing conditions, self-isolate. If you're healthy, go out in public. Participate in the economy. And I was talking about it with Charles a few days ago. And I'm like, I'm tired of being told that I want to sacrifice my grandmother. How about, hey, thanks for continuing to, like, by the way, on a side note, Jeb and I produce a lot of masks, tens of thousands of masks we make. How about thanks for making masks and paying tax dollars, like lots of tax dollars, so that people who cannot get out of their house can receive some form of a stipend, some form of unemployment benefit, some form of a stimulus check. like so that our debt's not $5 trillion, it's only $3 trillion, because there's people out there who are willing to expose themselves to the virus, who are willing to work. How about stop fucking telling me how I'm trying to sacrifice my grandma and say, hey, thanks for working. You know, like, I'm not asking to be called a hero here, but I'm fucking tired of being name called. Like, oh, you just want to see everyone die. I don't want to see no one. I literally don't want to see anyone die. I want to see 50 million kids get educated.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, man. I'm fucking done with it.
I don't have the same anger that Steven does.
It's passion. It's not anger.
Passion. Okay. No. Anger is a passion.
I guess you're right.
It's a similar thing. But no, I see what you mean. It is. I haven't been called a grandma murderer.
But you're also not like me, who's like saying like open up everything now.
Right. I'm in favor of like opening up slowly. I like the phases, honestly.
Yeah.
As long as we don't shut down everything again. Like
there's no way. Like there would be we already saw the riots from the unemployment and people feeling desperation.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at Texas and the governor in Texas, Abbott, and Florida, two big states where it's massively spiking, but it's also massively spiking amongst the younger population, which I don't think is a bad thing, because that's who you want to get herd immunity.
Yeah.
You know, and I haven't seen the fatality rates spike the way the cases are spiking.
They haven't.
Yeah, and I also saw the CDC a couple weeks ago put out an article that said that they estimate that 23 to 35 million Americans have already had the coronavirus.
Sure.
So if you take that as the fatality rate, then you're looking at 1 in 300 to 500, depending on the number.
It's one of those things where, like, it's a bad situation.
Yes, terrible.
Like,
terrible.
Steverdamus did not create the coronavirus.
No.
It came on its own accord. We don't know how it came, but it's here.
Yeah.
That's fact. And now she's like, well, gotta do something.
Listen, guys, not everything's fucking cupcakes and rainbows. Yeah. Like, I wish my business every day was $1 million day, but it's not. And I lose money many, many times. Yeah. I've gone bankrupt many, many times. Businesses. I've lost my shirt. I tried. I failed. Not everything's cupcakes and rainbows.
No.
And life is not fair. And but you can't just immediately make public policy based off the absolute best case scenario for the weakest amongst you. And you're right. Like, if I were 87 and living in a retirement community, I'd probably be willing to die. I'd probably be like, fuck, I'm ready to die. I'd probably fucking take it out back and do it by hand.
Right.
But, like, knowing me, but there's some Steverdamus for you. I'll take it out back and do it by hand. But it's just like, it's just, I mean, I don't get it.
I told you this a few weeks ago, and like you said, this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's just like interesting. You know, who is making our decisions for us? Government, obviously. How old is government? Super old. Coronavirus targets the super old.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, people are like, are you surprised about anything? I'm surprised about nothing. Like, you know what I am surprised about? I'm very, very surprised about is how few people are dying. Honestly, knowing how old we are as a populace and knowing how sick we are as a populace. Where, coming out of a winter, I think 80% of Americans do not have sufficient vitamin D. 50% of Americans are severely obese. I mean, it appears like that's an objective word.
Yeah.
Are well over the recommended weight. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Like well over the recommended weight.
I think that's obese. That's the technical definition.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. I've said on other podcasts. Like, this is another thing that really fucking chaps my ass. Is I'm so worried about people's deaths from this preventable disease. All we have to do is quarantine. Well, you know what else is preventable? For the most part, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, which kills over 1 million Americans a year.
But we're not worried about that.
You're not worried about that at all.
No.
Like, let's go stuff our face with Cheetos and sit on the couch and fucking watch Netflix. Like, we ain't worried about diabetes, heart disease, and cancer.
It's weird. Like, you get labeled as a Nazi. Like, if I'm enjoying like a nice juicy cheeseburger, and like, you shouldn't eat that. That's full of grease and whatever. It's like, man, shut the fuck up. Let me enjoy my cheeseburger.
Yeah.
And I get it. Let me enjoy my cheeseburger. But at the same time, like, that's what we're doing. We're shaming people when they go out in public. Why not shame them when they eat a juicy cheeseburger?
If every American was optimal in like weight and health, we would not even know the coronavirus existed. Like, listen to that, America. If every American was optimal in weight and health, meaning that they got the recommended daily allowance of exercise.
And we're not
vitamin D,
talking Olympic athletes here.
No. Like if you look, it's literally 150 minutes a week is what the CDC recommends of physical activity. 150 minutes a week.
Just do 10 push-ups.
It's 22 minutes a day.
That's so doable.
Most Americans don't get that. 22 minutes a day of exercise. Guys, that's like a brisk walk to the corner and back.
Yeah.
Vitamin D. For most light-skinned Americans, you probably need 20 to 30 minutes of direct sunlight between the times of 9 and 11 a.m.
Again, so fucking doable.
And it's just like, and it's the simplest habit to change, right? Like, take your shirt off, pull your pants legs up, go sit on the porch to have your cup of coffee in the morning.
Not even
the
that.
The only difference is not having a cup of coffee. It's having a cup of coffee on your porch or on your couch.
And I would say not even do that. Just literally go on a walk.
Yes.
Like, walk around your neighborhood, 1 block.
So I've definitely gone through phases in my life where I've been in like amazing shape, and I've also gone through phases where I've been on a roller coaster, just because I'm such an intense person. I have a really good buddy who's a doctor, and he saw me getting a lot of shape, and he's like, I was like, dude, I don't even know where to start this time. I was just fucking depressed. He's like, all right, Steven, we're going to do something really simple. He's like, when we wake up, we're going to literally, before we have a cup of coffee, before we do anything, we're going to drink a couple big glasses of water. And we're going to take our shirt off, and we're going to walk for about 20, 30 minutes outside, up and down the street, the driveway, whatever. And we're going to spike our cortisol levels. That's going to help us control sugar cravings. It's going to help us set our biological clock so it's easier to fall asleep later that night. It's going to lower our sugar cravings so it's easier to control alcohol and processed food desire. I made that one small change, and before you know it, I was able to make more powerful changes like cutting out processed foods, lowering my blood pressure 30, 40 points, like aches and pains and inflammation, lost 30, 35 pounds. And it wasn't a mountainous hill to climb.
Mm-mm.
It was just literally starting with very small changes. And one of the changes was literally getting direct sunlight early in the morning. Not even early in the morning. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. And I actually did it after my coffee. I lied to the dude. And so I was just like, I would just sit on my porch with my T-shirt off. Sit there, get a cup of coffee. I'm sure I fucking looked like a beached whale, and then fucking walked up and down the street for like 20 minutes, and then I went about my day.
Yep.
And then by the afternoon, I was like, I feel like doing a little bit more exercise. I did a little bit more exercise, and then it just sort of became a lifestyle choice and a habit. And I'm not saying I'm fucking running marathons here.
No.
But it's like if the average American did just the bare minimum of what the CDC recommend, and just your average run-of-the-mill like family practitioner recommended, this virus would not be an issue.
No.
I really believe that. I truly,
do
my heart of
too.
hearts, believe that. And
I think they've said that. Like it's only an issue if you have these morbidities, like they've said.
I really think that car wrecks in a week have killed more Americans under the age of 40.
Oh, it had to have.
Than that are healthy.
Had to.
Than in a week. And it's just like, and I was talking with a guy today, and he's like, well, car wrecks aren't contagious. True, but if we shut down the highways, there would be no wrecks.
Car wrecks, I got to think about that for a
Car
second.
wrecks aren't contagious. His point is that, like...
I see his point. It's like a...
But I see his point, too. But if the solution to a contagious disease is stop moving, then why is the solution to car wrecks not stop moving?
No, but car wrecks, in a way, are contagious because, well... So in some cases, it is my fault, but some cases, it's your fault. Like, I could be driving completely safe, and then some jackass cuts me off.
Just like I could not wear a mask in public, go sneeze on someone and give them the coronavirus.
Exactly, yeah.
So, like, you're right. So, like, it's like... It's just so fucking... It's crazy to me, like, what we did to society. And also, everyone sees the small picture, right? They're like, oh, kids will be fine.
No.
Well, now the AAP...
No, they won't.
Called it... Steverdamus here called it.
He did.
I hate to say it, but Jeb told me not to say the words, so I'm going to do it anyway. Told you so.
I don't want to say told you so because I don't want to alienate the people that are finally listening to you.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry about that. Jeb, edit that out. Don't edit it out.
We're not going to do that.
I will make a promise here on the podcast. I will try my damnedest to never say told you so again.
All right. Appreciate it.
And you know what, though? When you need to give me a told you so, you can.
Okay.
Because I'm not right about everything. I am definitely, a broken clock's right twice a day. People are like, someone told me last week, they're like, oh, you disagree with Donald Trump, and I fucking hate you for that. That's not what they said, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, a broken clock is right twice a day.
He can be right.
He can be right.
It is possible.
Let's get something very clear. I've never voted for Donald Trump, and I will not vote for Donald Trump. He's an absolute fucktard, and I would love to be left alone in a room with Donald and Eric. I can't beat up a 72-year-old dude, but I could beat their ass. Man. But oh, dude. And Ivanka I might flirt with a little bit. I don't know.
Oh, hell yeah.
Ivanka's kind of cute.
Ain't no question about that one.
I bet you she's so fake.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude.
Do you think she's probably like percentage of a day sober? What do you think?
Does putting Chardonnay in your coffee count as sober?
No.
0.
Okay, that's what I know. I took a cheap shot at you, Ivanka. I apologize, but
who knows? I know that a guy I went out to lunch with today, whose father passed on, actually, is a guy I really admired when I was in college. Like, he was one of my heroes. He was like a big businessman, and he once told me, never trust a man who doesn't drink. And Donald Trump doesn't drink. And I'm not saying that like in a way where like if people out there who are struggling with alcohol addiction,
right,
but they at least tried it. And they at least learned what it was like to lose control and think with a different set of their mind. And
I'll do you one better. I think same analogy, but a little better. I heard somewhere the British people don't trust Donald because they say never trust a man who doesn't crack a joke.
Yeah.
When's the last time Donald Trump made a joke?
I think he passes off things that don't go over well as failed attempts at jokes.
Yeah. Like
where he's like, we should stop testing as much. I think he passes off things that were jokes. I mean, he pretends he was joking,
right?
And maybe he tries to crack a joke, but like when you're as crass and he's also not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Not that he even deserves the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Yep.
That
he is.
But anyways, back to the kids.
Yep.
Guys, 50 million children. We have to think about them. Can we at least think about them a little bit? Like, please,
yeah.
like, guys, it's not just education; it's socialization.
Right.
And, I'm telling you, we are going to see. I don't want to be right about this. I hope I'm wrong. We're going to see a massive spike in depression, anxiety, PTSD, suicide.
Yeah.
And the generation, and I don't know I don't know what generation was affected the most. Was it the 3 and 4 year olds, the 5 and 6 year olds, the 8 and 12 year olds, the 16 and 18 year olds? I don't know. But there is going to be a generation, a gap of 3 years or 4 years, 5 years and 10 years from now, and they're going to call it, the coronavirus. Yeah. Anxiety or something, where it's just they're going to be non-functional, a large percentage of them. And I don't know what a large percentage means, but I would say millions. And like, this is the thing too, like when you talk about the coronavirus, you're not saving someone's life, like preventing an abortion type saving someone's life. You're prolonging someone's life. Mm-hmm. You're not saving anyone's life. You're prolonging a life that already exists. So stop saying we're saving lives. We're prolonging lives. So if someone's 80 years old and they have multiple comorbidities and we want to help them prolong their life, quarantining would do that, especially if we were to do like a draconian lockdown measure of quarantining. But, okay, let's say best case scenario, they live another 3 years to 83 and die of heart disease or die of diabetes or die of cancer.
Yeah.
And then we now have a group of 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds that have 80 years left.
Yeah.
50 million of them.
Yeah.
Like we just said, 50 million kids in public school that have on average, let's say the average kid in public school is 11. Let's say their fatality is going to be 80. So that's 70 years left on average times 50 million. That's 350 billion years left
of possible like depression lives, PTSD lives.
Yes. And they're like, oh, that's not going to happen. Oh, the hell it ain't, because the AAP just said this is very dangerous. We're playing with fire. So are you going to listen to them finally? You don't want to listen to Steverdamus?
Yeah.
Well, you're not a pediatrician. What the fuck do you know? I'm a logical, reasoning person that says, isolating children in their house, having them look at screens all day is not a good thing.
And see, that's what I was thinking about too.
Jesus Christ.
When I read the article, and then our Governor Cooper,
350 billion years of life, and we're trying to save maybe a few hundred million years of lives. Like we're adding on to like everyone in 80. Let's say we could save 3 more years. It's not even a few hundred million. It's like maybe like 50 million years of life that we're trying to prolong. First 350 billion of we don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Exactly.
Guys, if you don't see that, and I'm not saying you have to agree with me. You can still go back to thinking, oh no, lockdown, quarantine, everyone quarantine, lockdown. You can still think that, but just at least admit I'm going to take my first little break here. If you're out there and you still think that quarantining and lockdown was a good decision and should be what we should do now, just please, you owe it to me and the children to say, we're doing a social experiment with our children that we do not know what the effects will be. Just admit that to yourself. And as long as you're willing to admit that to yourself, I will accept your argument that you still think quarantining is the best thing to do for society. I won't agree with it, but I will accept it. But you have to admit, everyone out there, every single listener out there who still thinks that quarantining is the right thing to do, and it's the solution to the spike that's occurring right now, just admit we may not be doing damage, but we're playing with fire with a social experiment that we've never done on 50 million kids' lives. Just admit that to yourself. Jeb, hit pause for a second, please.
Our quick break is over. Now back to the madness.
All right, guys, so we had to take a break there. Jeb needed a glass of water.
Little water break.
And I needed a glass of wine. And so, Jeb, I'm sorry to get off on those tangents about the AAP and stuff, but I know...
Well, that's what I was going to say, too, during your rant. You called it, and some people would argue, and you mentioned this, too, some people would argue, oh, well, I mean, Steverdamus, he's not a doctor. First of all, I never claimed to be.
Exactly.
So why should we listen to Steverdamus? I get your point, a listener who is saying this to me. But at what point do we start listening to people like Steverdamus who call things correctly?
I mean,
like how do we do this in the future?
I think what you have to do is when you look at someone who's like telling you what's going to happen, you have to look at their life experience and ask yourself, do they have my best judgment in mind? And maybe if you're an 85-year-old out there on his last, 1 foot on the grave, 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot on the banana peel, maybe I don't have your best interest in mind. But if you're a healthy mother of 2 and a healthy father of 2 of an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, maybe I do have your best interest in mind. And then you have to ask yourself, like, do I have any alternative motives? And I don't. I don't have alternative motives.
Ulterior, you mean?
Ulterior, yeah. Ulterior motives, thank you.
Yep.
And last but not least, like, one thing that I've noticed about people like Joe Biden and Donald Trump and other leaders is they get really emotional, and I get emotional as well, but I have an ability to stay in my prefrontal cortex, which basically means that I can just quickly go back to my logical reasoning mind. And I don't know if it's just from like the tens of thousands of hours of playing high-level sports, when you're street fighting, it's playing for keeps, type stuff or what have you. But I don't know if it's that or what it is, but I have this ability, like my wife always says, like, the only reason I married you is because you would be the perfect partner in the zombie apocalypse. Like, you don't get scared, like, you don't get upset. Like, when shit starts to hit the fan and everyone's panicking, like, you run towards the fire, not away from the fire, and I think that, like, that's just who I am as a person. And I don't think you should listen to me in the sense, like, follow me. I think you should listen to me and weigh it against how you feel. And if you do agree with me, you need to question me. And so I'm not asking for people blindly to follow me. I'm asking for people to say, hey, 50 million children, he has a point. Let's at least think about it. I'm not even saying you need to agree with me. Let's just think about 50 million kids. 50 million kids.
It's a lot. It's a lot of kids.
Like, I called it from the beginning. I wrote it down in March. You can read it online. I said that 150 to 250,000 Americans would pass away from the coronavirus. Basically because I saw it as a flu, and that's what would happen if we didn't have a flu vaccine. And we obviously don't have a coronavirus vaccine. I don't see that as apocalyptic, especially if it's not killing kids. If it was killing 150 to 250,000 kids, I'd be fucking freaking out. Which is still only 0.3% of the children's population.
Yeah.
But I would still be like, whoa, guys, we got to really think about this. We need to shut down schools. We really need to be careful here. But when literally no significant data, there's data, but no significant data says that this is dangerous for people under the age of 65 that have no comorbidities. Yeah, well, did you see the CrossFitter in Chicago? You see how ripped and shredded he was? And he got the coronavirus. He was in a coma for 25 days. Yeah. Did you see the CrossFitter who died in the car wreck?
Shit happens.
Yeah, shit happens. And so it's just like, did you see the CrossFitter who committed suicide because he's unhappy? I bet if we put him in a jail cell with nothing but just 4 steel walls, he'd never been able to commit suicide because he couldn't hit his head into the wall hard enough. We would have stopped the suicide, guys. We would have stopped the suicide. Just like, oh man, but car wrecks aren't contagious. What the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
I know.
It's just like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? If your logic is we need to save lives, then let's first focus on cancer, diabetes, and heart disease.
Car wrecks are contagious. I'm still thinking about that. If I'm driving 80 miles an hour and I decide to hit the wall, guess what the guy behind me is going to do? He's going to hit me. Guess what the guy behind him is going to do? He's going to hit him. Boom. Car wrecks are contagious.
Yeah, it's contagious as stupidity. You know, most car wrecks are obviously people who are texting and drinking, or texting, drinking, or both.
Yep.
And so it's just like, it's just.
And if I have passengers in my car, they can't do anything about it.
So if you were to equate texting to not wearing a mask and drinking to not socially distancing, it's contagious.
Yeah.
But the point is, if you really cared about the 50,000 Americans who pass away each year in car accidents, shut down the highways.
Yeah.
Because it would immediately stop.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the other thing, too. And this is something I'm going to go back to. For all the people who think that, shutting down the economy is the right thing to do, you're probably a Democrat. And I'm just calling a spade. And you probably think Barack Obama could do no wrong. Fact check here, guys. Over 2 million Americans died of lung infections under the Obama administration. 300,000, give or take a few, died of the flu under the Obama administration. Should he be blamed for those deaths? Because he could have stopped it. He could have stopped it. Hey, guys, Obama could have stopped it. Shut down the economy. Lock everyone into their homes. Don't let anyone go out. He could stop it. Dude, you know what? I'm mad at Obama. He killed 300,000 Americans. It's like,
Thanks,
listen to
Obama.
your logic, guys. Listen to your logic. And this is why I want people, I guess, don't agree with me. Just listen to me. If you really think Donald Trump is responsible for killing 120,000 Americans at this point in time, I told you it's going to get to 250, and it probably will get to 250, then you have to blame Obama for not shutting down the economy for the 8 years he is. Fair is fair.
Yeah.
Fair is fair. He didn't shut down the economy. I think in one of those years, 75,000 died from the flu.
And that's what.
And that's also when they were very strict on writing death certificates because there was no financial incentive for writing a death certificate.
That's true. And obviously, for those who can't tell, Steven's being facetious here. We're not saying we should shut down the society for the flu, but the argument is if you don't shut down society for the flu, which is ridiculous, why are we doing this for the coronavirus?
And they're like, oh, well, this is just so much more dangerous. I'm like so much more, 10 times the death. It's like literally, a buddy asked me today, he's like, you're so callous. I bet you, as I kept saying, let's look at expected death for the year 2019, 2018, 2020, 2021, 2022. And he's like, I bet you and I told him that the CDC estimated it was 2.85 to 2.95 million would die this year, give or take plus or minus 3%, which is whatever. It's that's how many Americans. Let's round it up to 3 million Americans will die this year. This is before the coronavirus. This is they made these predictions back in December. I think we're on pace literally for like 2.9 million. And like, he literally asked me, he's like, would you feel bad if 4 million people died instead of 3 million? And I said, yes, I would. I totally would. Totally would. But we're on pace for the same number of people to die that they originally thought would die. Uh-huh. And then, here's the kicker. To get to 4 million deaths, which would be 1 million, 25% more than they expected, 1 million more deaths in the next 180 days, it's 5,000 people have to die a day of the coronavirus. And right now we're like a couple hundred.
Well, I guess, too, his argument
so 5,000 a day. 5,000 a day.
But we're on track for getting the 3 million, for getting the estimate after the shutdown. He could be arguing that if we didn't do the shutdown, then we'd be over our estimate.
Right, but the only way to really look at that is look at how many people actually have the antibody. Mm-hmm. Because if January of next year 45% of Americans have the antibody and 200,000 people died, well, there was no way to even get there, because if all 100% you extrapolate out the data and you double it, like, there would only be 500,000 people. Like, there's no way to get there. And someone argued back, well, there's going to be less car wrecks this year. And I'm like, okay, there's going to be epidemiologists who are going to go out there and be able to look at the data in a objective way and try to figure out, like, what happened, like how many people died from car wrecks, how many people died from COVID, how many died from the flu, and like how many extra deaths we had. And I think it's going to be 150 to 200,000. With that said, though, I think next year there's going to be a slight decrease in death, and the following year a slight decrease in death, because these are people that would have died in 2021 or 2022. And that's my whole point. If we're talking about adding quality years of life to people, why don't we add it to the 50 million kids?
Right.
And like, well, they're not at risk of dying. Exactly. Yeah. So why are we fucking up their minds?
It goes again, people don't give a fuck about mental health.
Oh, dude. And mental health is everything.
Yeah.
It really upsets me, not to the point where I'm like angry, like I'm gonna go grab a gun or anything like that. I'm like, it upsets me to the point where it's just like, guys, you need to get the blood back to your prefrontal cortex, and let's think rationally. 50 million kids, a few 100,000 people at 80 years old, and they're like, oh, that's so callous, that's so mean. But someone has to say it. Yeah. Someone has to stand up for these 50 million kids, and I'm willing to stand up for these 50 million kids.
Also, too, something that we haven't talked about on the show, but has been talked about in other people's like stuff. Physical domestic abuse is still happening but not being reported.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so like that's probably skyrocketed, but no one's saying anything about it right now.
I saw statistics out of Texas that, so like when you have like a hospitalization abuse of a child where it's like you broke his arm. So we had a guy that worked at our plant, and he's like, I have to bring my son to the plant. I don't know if you were there.
I wasn't.
And I was like, well, how old's your son? He's like, he's 2. I'm like, why do you have to bring him? And he brought his son in, and his son had a broken arm and bruises all over his body. And it sounded like the ex-wife's boyfriend beat the child.
Oh, damn.
And so this guy was 35 years old, didn't know how to take care of a child, had no money. He was in a tough spot. And so I was like, yeah, we'll help you out, bro.
Yeah.
And so we had to like put a playpen. And like, oh, well, what would OSHA say? Fuck OSHA. What else am I going to do, man?
Yeah, put him in the hands of the abuser?
Yeah, exactly. Send this guy back to someone who's going to beat him to death? He's fucking 2 years old, man. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, guys, like, this is the reality of society. And anyways, that's called severe child abuse. When you like hospitalize a child. Oh, he was like in a coma. And, my skin's getting fucking creepy right now. And, the study came out of Texas that type of hospitalization of children was up 900%.
Up 900%.
Yep. 900%. Because you're adding stress to men's lives, and you're putting a target in front of them. It could be women too, but it's mainly men who were probably abused as well.
Sure.
But like when you say you got to stay home with this child and you can't go produce, they're going to lash out.
Yeah.
Okay, so to all you people who want to quarantine, do you not care about those kids?
Exactly.
So you support child abuse?
Exactly. Exactly.
But I'm not saying that because that's irrational. Because I know no one out there supports child abuse. So stop saying I want to sacrifice grandma, because I don't want to sacrifice grandma either. I'm not saying that you support child abuse, because your measures that you supported have raised child abuse. That's a fact.
By 900%.
Yeah. That's a fact. Like I said, I'd have to. We're gonna get some more epidemiological studies, and we're gonna see how much child abuse went up. So, would you like it out there, the listeners who said support quarantine, if I started calling you supporters of child abuse?
Right. Also,
so stop saying that I want to sacrifice grandma.
That's a good point, but also too, just to even further nail that home, like you were saying, those fathers or mothers were probably abusers themselves as a kid. So now you've created 900% more child abusers in the future.
Jeb, that's called thinking, Jeb. Well done, sir. Well done.
That pisses me off.
Well
man.
done, sir.
I didn't know it was that high.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
And like I said, it could have been an extravagant article. I'd have to look into it. I do know for a fact that extreme child abuse is going up. To what extent, I don't know. But the simple situation is you're putting men out of work. What happens to a man who's out of work? He becomes insecure.
Yeah.
Why does he become insecure? Because innately he believes he's a provider. So now you have an insecure man who's around children. And by the way, I have 2 kids. I have never beaten either one. But Lord, I've thought about it.
I was like, tread carefully here.
Yeah, tread carefully. When Raleigh was like 3 years old, he was like surfing on his with the nanny, not with me, surfing on the what's it called, the stroller, and he fell and he scraped up his face and bruised it. And then like 2 days later, we had a pot of soup cooking on the stove, and we had a spoon in it. He reached up to grab the spoon, and he pulled it down, and like the soup splashed on his face and burned him.
No.
So he looked like a completely abused child. And like I swear to God, the teachers called us in, and good on them. Good on them.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Is there something going on at the house?" And I'm like, dude, it's just honestly, it's just a run of bad luck. Like
it's just like some bad coincidences.
Yeah, bad coincidences. And I think they probably kept an eye on him, which is good.
Sure.
Good on them.
Good for them, yeah.
And like, no, I've never physically. I spanked both my children one time, and I think it hurt me more than it hurt them. Emotionally, it hurt me. It hurt my hand too. But you know what? Now, whenever I say something, when they're like running out into it, like my mom told me, like only spank them once, and when you do it, get their attention, because you want them to associate like running out in a road with danger. And like if you tell them it's dangerous, they don't understand. You spank them, they remember.
Yeah.
So like intersurplus, woo woo. Allegedly, back in the Irish days when they were making land settlements, like let's say Jeb and I are at war, and he wants like one part for his clan and my part for another clan. The 2 clans get the 2 youngest kids. They tell them the deal, and then they smack the shit out of them, because the idea is it's going to force them to remember what the deal was. And so like that's like. I'm not advocating for child abuse, but if your child is like drinking Clorox, spank his ass and he'll learn Clorox is bad. If your child's like running out into a road, spank his ass and he'll learn that running out into a road is bad. Because you know what's worse than a child who's been spanked once? A child that gets run over.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and I'm sure some fucking pompous mother like, well, just don't let your kid near a road.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, okay. It's called yes. Great idea. Let's shut down society.
Why didn't I think of that?
Let's shut down society so no kid ever gets run over again. No, hey guys, vote for me. I'm gonna outlaw cars, and no kid will ever be
cars.
hurt. No cars.
You can't drive.
You can't drive. And guess what? We're gonna save 60,000 American lives every year. 60,000.
Yep.
I just saved 60,000. Cars are outlawed.
Kids can walk freely on the roads.
Yeah, kids can now walk freely on the roads. Absolutely.
You didn't know you wanted that, but now you know that's a thing now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm also going to outlaw processed foods. And you know what? I'm going to make it mandatory that everyone get exercise. Every morning at 10 a.m., if you're not out of your house doing at least 500 jumping jacks and 500 push-ups and 500 sit-ups, I'm throwing you in jail.
That's a good thing.
No. It's good for you.
It's draconian, and I would hate to live in a country like that. But at the same time, like, it wouldn't be that bad, honestly.
Yeah.
Bunch of fit people.
Oh.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm also cutting off electricity at 8 p.m. so everyone gets a good night's sleep.
Yeah, again, great things.
No.
Great things.
So I literally just solved 1 million deaths, guys, because those are preventable diseases.
Yeah.
Heart disease, diabetes. Oh, well, that's so unnecessary. Well, you told me, hey, society, you told me the goal is to save and prolong lives. You told me that.
Because you can't handle it yourselves. Mm-hmm. We have to do it for you.
Yep, that's right. All right. All right, guys, vote for me.
Yep.
Push-ups and sit-ups at 10 a.m. and electricity off at 8 p.m. See how fucking stupid it sounds?
Let's switch topics a little bit.
All right.
Another producer note.
Okay.
This one is what do we call it? A whoops.
Okay, whoops.
Yeah.
Is this called Steven was wrong?
This was yes, in a way.
Okay,
a
fair.
correction.
Fair. A correction. Okay.
A correction. A whoops. Last week,
Yeah.
we were talking about Civil War statues, and I think you had made the claim that like very few soldiers actually owned slaves.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because I think the average age towards the end of the war that was dying in the South was like 12 or 13-year-olds. And I don't think a 12 or 13-year-old you can own anything.
Well, yeah, you might be right about that. I couldn't find that. But, I mean, if you like, they're probably still from a family that owned a slave. They may not have owned one themselves, but they were probably still...
Their immediate family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I looked up, there's a Atlantic article on this.
I trust the Atlantic.
In 1861, I think when it started, 1 in 10 enlisted soldiers owned a slave.
I think that's what I said last week, though.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
1 in 10.
And
I think I said 1 in 11, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably what it ended up more being. And in 1861, half of the officers owned a slave.
Oh, I would guess all the officers owned slaves.
Okay.
Guys, like, I think the point is this: when like a Southern white male says, "Well, I didn't own a slave," is they feel guilt, right? And like, admittedly, I feel guilt, and it's not guilt like. I don't know how to explain it as a white male who's a leader in society, but I know there's some fucked up shit in the world. White man's burden is what I've heard has been called, and I think that's a good way of saying it. I know there's some fucked up shit done by my ancestors, whether it was fighting to prolong slavery, whether it was owning slaves, and I think that part of the white man's ideal is like, well, I didn't own slaves, well, I didn't own slaves, well, I didn't own slaves. And I think there's some validity to that. And I also think there's some validity to the fact that there's a lot of men fighting not for property but for a way of life. Mm-hmm. And you know what? They probably were brainwashed in a lot of ways by the officers who did own slaves and definitely by the politicians. Like, politicians, I guarantee you the governor of South Carolina and North Carolina in 1861 owned slaves.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Or at least were, like, in favor of it. Politically.
No, owned. Okay. There is no abolitionist governor in the South. I mean, maybe there was. Fact check me on that later. But I think the point is, maybe I don't want to admit how bad it was. Maybe I don't want to admit about how bad it is today because of how bad it was. I think I do want to admit, and I think I do want to find a solution, but I also want to remind people out there that I'm not an evil person. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that that's like making the point, like, well, you know, because there's a lot of Christians who died in the Civil War. Like, we can drive straight down here to Pittsburgh, and when you drive to Pittsburgh, where my great-grandmother's from, and whose father owned, you know, was a sharecropper, grew tobacco, when you drive there, it's like 30 minutes from where I live, maybe not even that, maybe 20 minutes from where I live. You pass huge Confederate flags and a bunch of other reminders, and the house is from the 1870s. It was the house they built after Sherman burnt it down. And it's just a fucking country home. And now it's a real estate office, actually. But I went by there, and it brought a tear to my eye because I remember meeting my great-grandmother who was born in 1888. And she grew up in a different time, obviously. And I remember her very well, very loving and caring, and I could just never see her hating anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe she did. Maybe she was like inward this, inward that. I don't remember that. Maybe she was. I don't know. I'm not putting words in her mouth. I also remember it was the first dead body I ever saw.
Really?
1987, yeah.
Huh.
She was like 99. I think she was like 99.
How old were you?
8. Maybe she died in 86. Maybe she died in like 95. But she was born in like 1888, 1892, something like that. But I remember her uncles, like her father's older brothers were soldiers in the Civil War. So it's like we're not that far removed. And I pointed out on the last podcast, Joe Biden's birth date was actually closer to the end of the Civil War than it is to today's date.
Still weird.
That's still weird, right?
Still messes me up.
And right? But I think that's also the point of like trying to point out to people. And like I said, maybe it's my guilt. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I think while you were talking, I had an idea. And I'll admit, I am tired of the media and my friends portraying racist Hicks as Southern people who talk like this and, boy, we're going to tip some cows, we're going to ride our pickup truck, drink some beer. And
that's
woo!
what Jeb does on the weekend, by the way.
Like, I don't lose sleep over it, but I guess it does bother me.
It does. I think it bothers me too. And that's why I think it's like, guys, it's listen, there's some fucking racist idiots. Yeah,
those people exist. I'm not going to deny it.
No,
those people definitely exist.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Like when I grew up in the South, there was a saying that I'll just put it out there just so people understand like how it was. Like it was like a lot of white men would say, "I'm not racist. I just hate N-words."
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with black people. I just hate N-words.
I've heard that many times.
Oh my God, the number of times I've heard that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I heard it as recently as like a week ago. And I think that what that means in some ways is just I hate assholes. And like now you can just be like, well, an asshole is someone who just doesn't cut their hair the way you cut their hair or wear their clothes the way you wear their clothes. And maybe that's true. But also it's like in the South, the N-word was associated in so many different ways with so many different parts of the culture. Like, I remember people saying, well, if you spell it with an A at the end, it's okay. If you spell it with an ER at the end, it's not okay.
Oh, I think I have heard that, actually.
Yeah, and I remember being on the football team and in high school, and this is 1996, 97, 98, and my friends were telling me it was okay for me to say it. I just had to pronounce it correctly. Because they're like, you got the street cred, Steve, because you've gone to war with us. You've gone to fights with us. You've slept at our houses. You've dated our sisters. You've been with us to war and back. You can say it. And I don't think I ever really did. You know, but I remember it being awkward, but it was just like, it was every other word that came out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like, I think that like black culture buried the word, and I think a lot of it has to do with like them just wanting to have control over something in society. And I fucking get it. I totally get it.
Actually makes
and I also think it's like
yeah.
bringing the flag down. Like, dude, yes, I will submit to your idea of bringing the flag down. That's fine.
Yeah.
Let I want you to see you have control in this society too, and that we are. Like, I always say this. Like, there's all the difference in the world between trying to make people equal and treating people equally. And I'm going to treat them equal. And if they have an opinion about public monuments, fucking take it down. Yeah. If they have an opinion about flags, fucking take it down. I still want to redesign the flag because I do fucking love the general.
I like that idea.
I'm going to redesign it. I'm going to redesign it and put it on a T-shirt.
Do it.
But also I get a little defensive, right? Like, admittedly, and I think that anyone in my shoes would. I don't know. I think maybe only other Southern men get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it's just,
yeah. Whoa, no.
I also get tired of being like lumped in with like some racist MAGA hat wearing motherfucker. Like,
exactly.
Dude, I want to whoop that guy's ass more than you do.
Yeah.
Because like nothing I hate more than someone making me look bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got tattoos, and yeah, I got a mohawk, and yeah, I like to drink beer, and yeah, I like to eat hamburgers, and yeah, I like to shoot guns, and yeah, I like to go hunting, and yeah, I like to go fighting, and yeah, I fucking love football, and yeah, I fucking love cussing, and yeah, like I love apple pie.
Yeah.
And you know, I fucking love being Southern too, and I'm fucking proud of it, and I love country music,
Southern
and I love my truck.
Great.
Yeah, it's being great.
It's the fucking best. I'm serious though.
But you know what I hate is people fucking tarnishing my name, because you know what? I do respect people. You can have dreads.
That's part of being Southern. I was taught to be respectful.
Oh, I'm yes sir. I'm yes sir, no ma'am.
Hell yeah.
80-year-old black woman, 80-year-old
yes,
Hispanic, 80-year-old
yes,
what? Hey, 6-year-old black girl, 6-year-old Hispanic, 6-year-old white girl. It's come here, darling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you need, sweetheart?
Yeah.
You know, oh, you hungry? Okay, we got this. Okay, you thirsty? Okay, we got. It does not matter your skin color. It does not matter. That's how I will treat you. I will treat everyone the same. You know, and it was funny. I have a friend who I would definitely deem a little bit on the racist side, and he's like, but he also does amazing things for our community, and he's just like, the only thing I don't trust is Muslims. I'm like, I'm like, so-and-so, like,
All right.
like, we can do better, guy. Like, I don't want to say his name. Like, we can do better. Like, we got this, man.
Yeah.
You know, but he's like, help me, Steven. Like, I have it inside me. You know, I'm just terrified. And I'm like, yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But you can't be that way. Like, you have to, like, he's like, I'm trying to admit it. I'm trying to confront my fear. And I'm like, good. And I told him, I was like, if you get the coronavirus, you're much more likely to be saved by a Muslim doctor than killed by a Muslim terrorist.
True.
He's like, yeah, that's probably true. I'm like, yeah, because Muslim doctors are really fucking good.
Right.
like if I walk in and there's some fucking guy with the name Muhammad, blah, blah, blah.
Give me him.
Yeah. Does he drive a BMW? Yeah.
Give me him.
Yeah, he can cut my heart open. Go ahead, sir. Cut my heart open. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, my God. And so it's just like, I don't know. And I think that's also, too, where I just sort of see the meritocracy. Like, I want my doctor to drive a fucking Mercedes.
Sure.
I want my doctor to have gone to fucking Harvard.
Yeah.
And I want my doctor to fucking wear gold and be confident. And you know what? If his name is Muhammad, so fucking be it.
You can be just as smart.
You could probably be smarter.
Yep.
Because your culture takes really big attention to detail. I want someone who's cutting my fucking chest open to have a lot of attention to detail.
Do you want me?
Like, don't leave the. You don't want me. You don't want
Yeah.
my fucking drunk redneck ass cutting your heart open.
I could take like an online course and figure out how things work down there.
You know, and so like that's what I would say to a lot of my friends who are scared. Like, these guys are more likely to save your lives. You know, and then like they're like, well, if you say the Trayvon Martin thing, like may he rest in peace. Like, if you saw a 6'3" black dude walking down the street with a hood on, you'd be scared of him too. I'd be afraid of any man walking down the street at 6'3" with a hood on.
If I saw a white guy with a hood on,
yeah,
I'm not gonna like that either.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I'm a big motherfucking dude, and so one of the things my wife taught me is to be socially conscious about my size, especially at night. And so, like, if I see a woman walking down the same side of the street as me at night, I walk to the other side of the street. I want to show her. I want to show her I have no harm for her, and like you can see them. I can see women getting scared because of my physical presence, and I'll literally leave the room. I'll walk to the other side. I'll hold the door open. I will look down to the ground because I understand that there's a bunch of fucking people who look just like me with tattoos and mohawks. They've given us a bad name.
Yeah.
And I get it. And you know what? It's my burden to fix the problem. And I have to own the problem. But at the same time, can I still say, like, hey, I'm so proud to be who I am?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And it's just like, I don't know. Like, it's tough, but
I think that, too, what bothers me about it is, like, I just think about my family. Like, my family is the salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Like, they are the best people you will ever meet. And they're all farmers. And so when you come at me and say, like, Southern farmers
are racist.
I'm like,
no, they're not.
You haven't met my family. Like, they're better than yours. Sorry, but they are.
Hey, and you guys want to run an experiment? Why don't you get 3 black guys with dreads and pop their tire in front of Jeb's driveway and see what his dad does?
Fix it immediately. Or he'll call up his buddy down the street to come fix it immediately.
Or he'll say, you guys thirsty? You want to?
Yeah.
You guys want a beer? You know, like you guys want to sit on the porch and talk for a little while we wait for someone to come?
This makes me so proud because that's my dad to a T. Like, he would
I guarantee it. And so, and you guys want to run the experiment? Go to what's it called?
Rich Square.
Go to Rich Square, North Carolina, a very small town. Send 3 black dudes in a Honda Accord with some rims. Pop one of their tires in front of Jeb's father's house, and let's see what happens.
This happened. Not that exactly, but I've had friends pop a tire, and guess what? He fixed it.
But are they African American?
They were not black. They were white people.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Black Lives Matter. Someone out there, so you can see that not all white people are fucking racist assholes. And you can say, well, there's just enough to make it worse, dude. I agree. There's just enough to make it worse. I'm not arguing with that. There's zero arguing with me that there's a bunch of racist assholes. There's zero arguing with me that we have a complex racial history.
Very complex.
There's zero arguing. All I'm saying is, can I still be prideful to be Southern?
Exactly.
You know, and like my favorite team growing up was NC State, and this still is. And nothing makes me more prideful than watching a group of black men and white men and whatever else is on the football team run out of the tunnel at Carter Finley Stadium, carrying the North Carolina flag, carrying the United States flag and being proud of being from North Carolina. We're not
Hell
the greatest
yeah.
football team in America by any stretch of the imagination. That goes to Alabama.
North Carolina's motto, esse quam videre, to be rather than to seem.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a tattoo. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
Yeah, but you see the same thing in the state of Alabama. The Auburn players and Alabama players, both black, running out of the tunnel carrying the state flag. Proud of where they come from.
Yeah.
But we should hate them because they're supporting a state that supported slavery. That's fucking stupid.
I know.
That's fucking there's a lot of noble things that stand. And you know what else? Like America and all you fucking people in the North and we're Midwest who tell us we're all a bunch of fucking racist, stupid rednecks. We're the ones who are dying in the fucking wars.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, exactly. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Like we're the ones who also feed your asses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's just like, guys, I understand. We're working on it. But back the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think that's also what the Southern soldiers were saying. Hey, we're working on it.
Yeah.
Back the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I mean, it is what it is. But, like, I definitely think that part of it is guilt.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is not knowing what to say or what to do. I think part of it is just, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this happened. And I own it. And you know what I really want to do is I really want to get like some African American community leaders, some black dudes up in here who we can just have a fucking real talk.
Oh my gosh, I would love
smoke
that.
a joint, drink a beer, and
Yes.
just fucking like tell me what you want me to do.
Seriously.
Like, explain to me how
Seriously.
I can fix it. Tell me. Like, I mean, like
You can call us assholes, racist assholes. Like,
that's fine.
please come on the air and
Yeah,
just
just
do
like
that.
and I really want to do that. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna have to seek that out. But it's just like I don't know. It's challenging. It's really fucking challenging. But it ain't gonna get fixed if we don't talk about it.
Exactly, man. You're exactly right on that.
You know. So I don't know. What's another thing we talk about?
The only other producer note that I have that y'all sent me was the worldometer graph that said that daily deaths.
I'll send it to you.
Do what? Yeah. Shout out Chuck. The worldometer graph that said that daily deaths are actually declining since the outbreak. We're dying less.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like when a bunch of young people are getting sick, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's not funny, but it's like this was my plan from the very beginning: quarantine, hospice, quarantine, assisted living, quarantine, retirement communities. If you're still living in your house and you have multiple comorbidities, quarantine yourself and just let society go on for 3 to 5 months and let us reach herd immunity, and then everyone comes back out of their house.
Mm-hmm.
And like because you're gonna have and this is the problem too. Like all these countries that went into massive lockdowns, they're still going to have to face it. And then people are like, well, look in New York, they're doing a great job. They're fucking herd immunity. And
No.
you know,
No.
they're proving the rule.
But they won't admit it.
Oh, dude. I guarantee you by Christmas, 50% to 75% of New York City will have had the antibody. 50 to 75%. And herd immunity really starts to take effect around a third to half the community. So then it just like slowly burns through the last little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be a spike here in a retirement community, unfortunately. There might be a spike here, wherever it is. Like I saw my grandmother, the last of the elderly in my family. It's actually my wife's grandmother. She's 86, 88. She lives at a retirement community, assisted living home. And a lot of people in there, like I've been in there. A lot of people have had like 7 strokes, and they're like shaking at dinner, and they're like they're like you breathe on them, they're blowing over.
Yeah.
And then there's definitely some like guys who like still get up and go play golf, and they have like a quality of life. And like my grandmother has a great quality of life, and they've had several COVID cases. Some have passed on, some have not. But like we have to be respectful.
Yeah.
But she was a teacher, and I think if I have not asked her. But I think if you were to say, should the kids go back to school, she'd say yes.
Oh, yeah.
She was a teacher. Like, she knows how important and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she'd be like, no, fucking shut everything down. I just.
No, but I can't imagine.
I know her
a
well. There's no way
teacher
she'd say that.
Saying to keep kids out of school.
Yeah.
They wouldn't say that.
No. And that doesn't mean that she wants to be Jesus about it. Also, she's a Jewish woman, but like, that she would be Jesus about it and would want to like fucking be like, I'll fucking fall on a sword and let my kids go to school. Like, but I'm not asking anyone to do that. Yeah. I'm just asking everyone to take care of themselves. Yeah. And let's get the kids back in the classroom. And like I just saw like when that AAP article, like I read it when you shared it with me, and it was like there was on a Facebook post, and it was like tons of people like, well, my kid lives with a pre-existing grandmother, and well, my kid has type 1 diabetes. I hear you. Yep. Keep them out of school.
That's rough.
That's rough. That's not fair. Let's set up some cameras in the classroom. Mm-hmm. They can still zoom into let's live stream the classroom.
And by the way, the AAP article, the NPR article by the AAP, was not saying, all right, everybody go back to school immediately. No, there's going to be some precautions.
It was also what you shared it, or someone, my wife shared it with us, I think. But like, it also said that it is very dangerous what we're doing. Yeah. It also said, like, unless there's a massive spike, which we don't see, we need to get the schools going again. And it also said, like, we need to be smart about it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's being very smart about, like, listen, if you're a healthy coward, be a healthy coward.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't feel comfortable, stay the fuck home.
Yeah.
If you live with a grandmother who's 85, or your child has type 1 diabetes, God bless you. Stay the fuck home, though. But if you live in a household that can go to school, go out there and get educated. There's no reason there's no reason to punish every child because of the outlier.
Right.
Dude, that's my whole point. Is like we're talking about a few 100 million years prolonging of life among a few 100,000, maybe 1 million people. Not a few hundred. Yeah. I think we're talking about 1 to 2 million people, 3 to 5 years. So we're literally talking like adding 3 to 5 million years of life to 1 to 2 million people by being super draconian. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about 350 billion years of our youth. And because they still have their lives to live.
Yeah. And they don't, and that's what I'm saying about mental health. People don't get it. Like living 3 more years physically fit is a lot different than living 60 years depressed and PTSD.
Yes. And like, I know we're being extreme here, but so are you when you say, well, look at the 32-year-old who is a CrossFit instructor. Like, we're being extreme, but we're trying to get the point across. There's 50 million kids. And like I said before the break, just fucking admit we're running a social experiment. Yeah. And you know what? There might be some silver linings. Maybe we're all going to all pull together, and these kids are going to come out better than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible.
I just, being logical, don't think that's what's going to happen. Watching my 2 kids, that's not what I see. Luckily, there are some people who have some fucking courage, and they opened up some summer camps, and my kids are at the summer camps, and they're socializing mainly with a bunch of black kids, which is even great to me.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And fuck yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, dude, I fucking love it. I guess my youngest son's best friend is like, I don't know her name. It's a little cute little black girl. It's fucking gorgeous. Fucking super, like, they're just super sweet when they're interacting, saying goodbye to each other. Aww. And it's just like, it's perfect for me. Like, he's getting socialized. He's playing outside. He's strengthening his immune system. He's building relationships with people of opposite color. You know, and he has no clue what Black Lives Matter is or the coronavirus. Like, he just wants to go fucking hang out with this cute chick. He's 5. He's like, yo, can I get a kiss? You know,
sounds like a Crispin. That sounds like
exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, and so I'm like, oh man. And so it's like those 2 kids, this young black girl and this little young white boy, they're both 5. Let's say they live to 80. They have 150 years left. My grandmother, I was talking about earlier, might have 2, maybe 5. You know, and we should protect them both.
Yes.
And I think we can. And we send letters, and we have video chats, and we use Zoom, and my kids are part of their lives, but I'm not letting my kids, because I know they've been exposed to the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. I'm not letting them go see her right now until there's, 60, 70% of Americans test positive. We're at herd immunity, and we can, at that point, like, hey, we have the antibodies. Let's go about our lives.
Yeah. I think, too, there's an argument to be made for... There is an argument about, like, not overrunning the hospitals. I get that. Like, if and when your grandmother...
But it didn't even happen in New York. They build a hospital and... Oh, dude. And, like, this is where the media... Like, fuck you, media. Like they Jeb's laughing. They built like
it's Steven's theme song.
Dude, they built a hospital in Central Park. How many patients went there? 0. They sent in the Navy ship. How many patients did it attend? Like 1.
Really?
Yes, they sent in like the Navy aircraft carrier, the Good Fleet or whatever it's called.
The Comfort. Or
yeah,
whatever?
Comfort. Yeah. Never used. They didn't report that. Oh, they reported they're coming here. It's apocalyptic. It's the end of the world. 10 million New Yorkers. Guys, there's 8 million live there. Like, how can 10 million? Like, are you literally gonna fly in people to die? Like,
wouldn't put it past them.
I do, dude. Like, it's just so fucking silly, man. And you know what I think is and this is where it's like, they're like, oh, look at all the coronavirus cases spiking. These motherfuckers don't give a shit because you all fucking lied to them. Fauci, you lied to them. Trump, you lied to them.
Oh. I just thought of this. He said something today too about that. Like he admitted to lying
about the masks. Or
yeah. What was it? I think I didn't hear the.
This is why no one trusts government. And like, oh, well, I would trust Obama if he was in power. Dude, that motherfucker lied too. Like they all fucking lie. They're fucking politicians. Is what they fucking do. They lie and they justify it because they believe in their mind that they're doing something that's correct. But in my mind, it's nefarious and evil. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like it. And I think that's why I'll never get. Like, I do want to run for. I do. I will run for public office one day. I'm not banking on winning, but I am throwing a fucking rock in the proverbial lake of society, and I'll probably get like 35% of the population to be like, that dude's got it. Like he tells me the truth even if it's when I don't want to fucking hear it.
Yeah.
And he's not gonna lie. He's just not gonna lie. And it's just like, and I want to stick to that. I really do. I want to stick to like, I'm just gonna tell what I truly believe to be the truth, not what I think is gonna help society. I want to just tell society the truth because I think if we got used to like actually hearing the truth and not hearing what other people think is the truth, we'd be a lot better off. Because what we hear right now from our leaders is what they think the truth to be. But it's not really the truth. It's their opinion of what's happening.
The truth has been... That's a whole other topic. But the truth has been forgotten. Like, we don't know what the truth is anymore.
Or maybe the truth has never been known. Or I think you're right. I think there's this huge... And Charles talks about it a lot. Shout out, Chucky. There's like this like... misconception by our parents' generation that like every reporter is like Walter Cronkite.
Oh yeah.
Like Anderson Cooper is not really trying to fill ratings. Like Chris Cuomo doesn't love like making his pencil dick feel big. Like they literally just love being stroked off. And they love just being able to like say something and have. I just saw like CNN's ratings are through the roof. Of course they're through the roof because everyone wants to tune in to hate Donald Trump right now. And I hate him too, but I don't tune into CNN. I don't even have fucking cable. You know, like I said, I'll read the mainstream media for the sole purpose of just like seeing how people think and then just laughing at it. and I think people tune into me to maybe laugh at me. I don't know, like maybe like that pencil dick fucking Chrisman. I don't give a shit, you know. So it's hilarious, man. It really is. It's sad. We're at a weird time right now.
We really are.
Yeah. And like I really do think there's a lot of truth to this like Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally.
And it's like,
well, it is. I think you're right, Trump derangement, but it's not. Again, he is a symptom, not the disease. It's a
yeah, exactly.
It's a political party derangement system. It's just getting more and more extreme. Is the thing.
He's the like pimple that I hope we're popping.
Yeah,
like he's the zit. He's the cyst on our body of society. And like, he's a huge cyst, like right on the end of our. Dude, when I was in 7th grade, I had this huge zit on my nose. It was so embarrassing. But he's this huge. He's my zit from 7th grade on the end of my nose, and we just gotta fucking squeeze out and pop. He's just a. I mean, like. But like you said, like he's the extreme of the extreme. Just like constantly lying, never doing anything good, constantly about him, constantly narcissistic.
Oh, constantly.
And all these other politicians who act like they're not like him, you're just not exactly like him.
Yeah,
like,
you're a little more veiled.
Yeah. Like you can hide the narcissism just for a little bit so that you can go get more narcissism.
Yep.
Like it's just so fucked up, man.
It really is.
It's so sad. It's just, and I don't know what the solution is. I think the solution is we keep communicating. We have like alternative. we have people who challenge us, and I think that's what I'm out here doing. Like, as I'm just trying to, like, the 10, 20, 30 listeners I have, like, I'm just, like, I'm out here trying to do my part. I'm out here trying to just, and Jeb's out here trying to do his part.
Yeah.
Like, this is a work of passion. You know, I know most people don't agree with everything I say, and that's great. Like, don't agree with me.
I think that is kind of the point.
And it is kind of the point, is, like, just listen to me and take it with a grain of salt. Go talk about it with your friends and family, and just go out there and make your life better. And just hear me now. It's my platform, diet, sleep, and exercise. If you want to stop the coronavirus, diet, sleep, exercise. With that said, a lot of love, a big, big fucking hug, a big hug, virtual hug. Feel it, feel it, feel that power of humanity touching you and just being like, man, we're in this fucking shit together. Boost your immune system. We'll get through this. Like I said, there's probably going to be another 100,000 getting knocked off. It is what it is, but we got to protect the 50 million kids. We got to bring society along. We got to protect the mental health of the other, 349,900,000. So we got to protect the mental health of them as well. And we'll get through this together. Love you guys, and good night.
Chuck and Steverdamus are not doctors, certified or endorsed by anyone, really. Just two guys trying to make sense of everything. That's all for now. Until next time.